So the Google Pixel 2 is one of the more interesting phones that Google has made. I don't really think this is a phone that's worth buying anymore, but for some people out there, it might still be a phone that could be fairly interesting for some people. So we'll go and take a look at this phone, see if it's still worth buying, see what other devices are probably worth buying more so than this thing. But if you are in the market and you are looking for another type of device to go and pick up, I'll go ahead and find some links to some devices that I probably would end up recommending this particular year, and I'll leave them linked down in the description so you can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of the Google Pixel 2. You have to remember that this phone originally came out back in 2017. So this phone is getting a little bit older now. It's definitely a much older type of phone than a lot of other devices out there. And I do think this is one of the more important things to kind of keep in mind here, because you probably don't just want to go ahead and buy a device that's already going to be outdated by the time you buy it. And that is kind of what's going on within this type of phone, right? So on the exterior, you're essentially getting a 5-inch AMOLED display. So it's not a terrible display. I think it still looks pretty good for the most part, but you have to remember that within a type of device like this, it's definitely going to be showing its age in a majority of ways that you're probably going to end up thinking about it. So it's an AMOLED display, so there is some capability and some character left inside of that type of device from that standpoint, but it's not really going to be giving you like anything super insane that we haven't already seen from a majority of devices, right? It's going to be a standard type of display. It's going to be giving you like more or less what you'd expect from like a type of device like this of this type of age. So again, it isn't the biggest deal in the world, but it is just going to be one of those smaller types of situations that you might find yourself in, because this type of device just really isn't going to be that great of an experience in my personal opinion. Now, you are also getting massive bezels kind of all across this particular device. So the panel, the way this thing looks, just going to be a very, very outdated type of device from that standpoint as well. So if you're going to go through and pick up a device, I feel like that right there is going to be one of those types of other things to keep in mind here. Because like I said, if you're going to go through and pick up a type of device like this, you probably don't want to go ahead and buy a phone that's going to be outdated by the time you buy it. And these types of phones are definitely going to be showing their age for sure. USB Type-C port at the bottom. It's pretty much built out of this like aluminum frame and glass back at the same time. So it's like a little bit of a glass back with mostly aluminum. It is a nice touch, but again, it just depends on how you look at it, because you probably don't just want to go through and pick up a device if it's already going to be fairly outdated by the time you buy it. And like I said before, that is kind of what's expected when you're going through and buying a phone like this. Now, on top of that, I think another important thing to keep in mind here too is that this phone is outdated in a lot of ways. One, it's basically missing out its, face unlocking. That's a good quality. This thing is essentially giving you this Touch ID or fingerprint sensor on the back, which again is a little bit of a downside. You're also going through and missing out on any high refresh rate, no super high brightness panel here either. It's going to be a panel that you look at and it's going to feel like a very, very outdated type of display from that standpoint as well. So like I mentioned, you probably don't just want to go through and buy a panel or buy a device like this if it's already going to feel like a severely outdated type of panel. And like I said before, that is precisely what's going on here if you're going to go through and pick up these types of devices. So again, maybe it's not the biggest deal to you, but it could be a really annoying thing depending on who you are from that particular standpoint as well. So I will be honest, from that standpoint, that is one of those big things to keep in mind there. So beyond that, that kind of covers it up from that particular standpoint as far as I can tell. Now, another thing to keep in mind here too is the camera. This camera on the backside, it's essentially a single 12.2 megapixel wide angle camera. So this right there is another one of those things to keep in mind here, because once again, it is a fairly outdated type of lens when it comes down to it. So it's going to be one of those types of cameras that you're going to look at and you're probably going to feel like it's just not going to be that great of an experience here, because it isn't really going to be that great. It's going to be giving you some issues, some problems. It's just not going to perform that great. It's not going to look that great either. And that right there is going to be one of the bigger downsides for this type of device as well. 4K at 30 on the back and 1080p at 30 on the front. Again, like I stated, you probably want to go ahead and look elsewhere if you're trying to go through and buy a device that's going to be giving you like good type of capability in any capacity. And this phone's camera was good, when it first came out, but this phone has been out for many, many years now, and it definitely is not a camera that is worth buying as far as I can tell in my personal opinion. So, like I stated before, I think that right there is just another one of those big kind of things to keep in mind there. Like I said, you probably want to go through and get a device that's going to be giving you better capability, and that's kind of what's going on here for the most part. So as far as I can tell, I think that right there is just another one of those big things to keep in mind there as well. On top of that, I think another really important thing to keep in mind here too is that within these types of phones, you're going to have to also remember that these types of devices, when it comes down to software longevity, are also already pretty much done getting software updates. So these types of devices, they're just not really getting any more types of software updates as you probably would want. So that right there is another big downside, right? Because you probably want to go through and get some sort of a phone that is still going to be giving you some sort of capability. And unfortunately, with this type of device, you're not really going to be getting that. So once again, what's the point of even getting a device like this if you can't even go through and get software updates anymore? And I feel like that right there is a big problem. I feel like if you're going to go through and pick up a device, you probably want to go through and get a device that's still going to be giving you some sort of like future ahead of it. And unfortunately with this one, you're basically already kind of done getting the support that you'd want. So I'll definitely tell you from that side too, that's kind of one of those other really big things to keep in mind there. And even the battery life of these devices is pretty much already outdated as well. Like you're getting a very outdated type of experience here. And, if you're trying to go through and, try to get a new phone, this type of phone just right now just doesn't make a lot of sense. But at the time, it was a pretty good device, which is crazy to say, because think about how much, we've gotten improvements since this device came out. Like this device came out, at that time, there's been little tiny mini improvements for the most part that's also gotten a lot better, which is something that I really, really did like. So I think from that side too, that was a really nice thing going on here. Although it's not perfect, I do think there were some, situations kind of going on there too. Now, I think another thing to kind of keep in mind here too is the performance. One of the things to keep in mind here is that with this type of device, you're getting the Qualcomm Snapdragon 835 chipset inside with 4 gigabytes of RAM. And this right there is another one of those things, this device's performance, it's really not going to be that good here either, right? It's going to be an outdated type of experience. It's going to be glitchy. It's going to be laggy. And the last thing I would want is for you to go through and buy a device if it's already going to be this lackluster of an experience, right? Because you probably want to go through and get an experience and get a device that's going to be giving you a better experience. And unfortunately, with this type of phone, you are going to be getting a rather lackluster type of experience when it comes down to it from that side as well. So, in my personal opinion, to kind of sum up this whole entire thing, I genuinely do think in a lot of different ways, it really doesn't make a lot of sense to go through and buy a device like this anymore, right? I think it made a lot more sense to go through and buy a device like this, back in the day. Even like 4 years ago, I would say in the last 3 years, it has really made no sense to buy this type of phone. But especially now, it really does not make any sense. There's way better devices out there for you to go and buy. And I would highly recommend buying some of those devices rather than this one. Buy something like a Google Pixel 5, a Google Pixel, actually not even a Pixel 5. Buy something like a Google Pixel 8, Pixel 9, Pixel 10. Those types of devices definitely make a lot more sense for me to recommend it than this one. So in terms of that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.